Welcome to Amazing Business Radio with best-selling author and customer service and business expert, Shep Hyken. Shep will talk with some of the smartest thinkers in business to help make you more successful in your professional and personal life. This is Amazing Business Radio with Shep Hyken.
Hello, everybody. It's Shep Hyken here, back with another episode of Amazing Business Radio with another great interview today. We are going, as I like to say, into the trenches, and we're going to talk to an executive of a company. And today it's Keith Meier, the COO of Assurant. And they are a really interesting company in that they are B to B to C. So they have to understand two levels of customers, the actual customers that pay them, and then the customers of their customers. We're going to learn a lot about that and much more when we start the interview. But first, a couple of quick announcements. If you've got an amazing story you want to share or a question you want to ask, reach out to me on all the social channels. Use the hashtag AskShep, and I'll make sure if it is a question, I'll answer it right there. I'll answer it in my newsletter, on this show, or maybe my TV show, which is Be Amazing or Go Home, and that can be found on Amazon Prime, Apple TV, Roku, and you can catch episodes at beamazing.tv. That is beamazing.tv. All right, let's get into the interview with Keith Meier. I'm excited about this one. Keith, welcome to the show.
It's great to be here with you, Shep. Thanks for having me on.
So we have so much to talk about in a short period of time. And the first thing is, and let's do the elevator pitch, the one or two sentences that completely describes, if you can, what Assurant does.
Yeah, and I think, Assurant is a company that really is known for protecting and securing the major consumer purchases and the places that people live. So, we're actually the company behind the scenes of many of the largest brands in the world. And, you'll see us sometimes co-branded or a lot of times we'll be in the fine print of things where you might work with a manufacturer or buy something from a manufacturer, and we're supporting that, whether it's through protection programs, extended warranties, things like that. Could be mobile companies where you're buying your phone, and we do many of the services for mobile companies, and we also have financial institutions and many other types of companies. So it's really an interesting aspect of being at a company that works with all the leading brands around the world. And we're a Fortune 500 company that many people are our customers, but not always
they don't even know it. Right. So, you're behind the scenes in effect with some of the brands. They don't even, the customer doesn't even know that when I call, your company is answering the phone. They're helping me. They're giving me a replacement, the warranty, and you're handling essentially claims by customers, and they don't even know. They think they're calling a company. I love that. So you're behind the scenes. One of the things we talked about as we were warming up here to get into the interview is we talked about the blurring of the line between technology and operations. And there's so much going on in the world of technology, creating a better customer support system. And you made a comment that you said, I think that the old style of the customer support call through a contact center is kind of going away, and it's being replaced with a better experience, and that's a digital experience. And I think you and I are in the same place in that it's not ready to completely replace the contact center, but you think we're heading that direction. So let's really get into that because, and by the way, everybody listening, this is a company that is B to B to C. In other words, their customers are major brands, and the brand's customers are consumers just like us. So let's go ahead and riff a little bit on the whole concept of this. Is technology 5 years from now, am I going to have a phone number to call customer support and talk to a human?
5 years from now, it might not be as easy to find that phone number, Shep, is my guess. But, I think the best companies will always, have that access for you, because I think customers want digital experiences for, the more routine types of services. But, for some of the ones that may be more tricky, I think we'll have less number of people supporting it, but I think you'll need higher skill, ultimately for that. So I don't think digital replaces, everything, but I think it'll definitely become a bigger percentage of how, how consumers get service. And also, we've seen that it's a better customer experience across the board. And, we measure that through the different channels that we have. So I think that's definitely going to be a trend that'll continue, Shep.
Right. So phone, probably in my research, we do research every year, sponsored by Amazon. We have found that the customer will call more than they will use any other service. 71% of customers prefer the phone as their number one channel. By the way, this is skewed by baby boomers, because approximately 88% of baby boomers, which is about 21% of the US population, say, you know what, I'd rather pick up the phone. Now, of course, Gen Z and millennials bring it down to closer to 50%, but still, overall, 71% prefer to go to the phone. That said, almost the same percentage of customers in general say, yeah, I'm willing to use self-service digital solutions. And those could be knowledge bases on and that's a sophisticated word, basically a FAQ, frequently asked questions section on a website, digital tutorials, artificial intelligence infused chat bots. They're willing to go and use that. Still, phone's number one choice. Any thoughts around that?
Well, actually, we measure the utilization of phone versus digital channels, and it's been continuing to increase more and more through most of our businesses. We're moving past the 50% mark of customers choosing digital channels over traditional phone channels. And interestingly enough, Shep, we measure the customer experience through both channels, and across each of our businesses, we see a net promoter score of about 10 to 20 points higher when the consumer can do a full digital experience. So
that's huge. That's important. But do you think that is a result of, well, number one, you've created a good digital experience. I get it. But when they compare to the traditional phone experience, do you think that's a result of an agent that isn't showing empathy, not properly trained? Maybe it's offshored, hard to understand. Maybe there's so much noise in the background that, so that could be tainting the experience quite a bit, versus a company that invests a little bit more money, regardless of going offshore or not. I mean, I'm a huge fan of doing it right offshore. And using third parties, but sometimes those third parties are really, really good, and you think you're dealing with the top-notch people in a company.
Well, maybe a good point to clarify, Shep, is our net promoter scores for call centers is very high, actually, as well. And so we put a huge premium on delivering a great customer experience, no matter which channel someone's choosing. If you think about it, we work with the largest brands across the world, and what they're coming to us to do is to create more and more loyalty for their consumers to that brand. And so, the biggest thing that we can sell is a great customer experience, regardless of the channel. But consumers are basically seeing it easier, Shep, more and more to be able to go through a digital channel, not have to wait, do it on their own time. There's no phone hours or any of that kind of thing. So it's a lot more flexible ultimately for a consumer. We've invested a tremendous amount in our digital experience. Like you said, it all comes down to how good it is. And we're continuously measuring the activity within the digital experience to keep improving it every day. So it's really a critical element of where we spend a lot of our time. That's for sure.
Yeah, so I'm going to over-exaggerate and say you just gave us 17 great points here, but let me just break it down. Maybe it's 2 or 3. Number one, you create a good digital experience. It's getting really good ratings, and the digital experience isn't necessarily to replace the human experience, but it's a way that customers, if they figure it out, will understand that this is easier, faster, quicker. It's not hard. Number 2, you do have a good agent experience. Your NPS, Net Promoter Scores, and customer satisfaction scores are very high. That's really important for everybody to understand who's listening, is that it's not like we're using digital to replace the phone. If somebody wants to use the phone, it's still high. And sometimes companies are trying to force customers to use the digital experience by creating a questionable experience on the phone, meaning I call you, I have to wait. Sometimes it's 30, 45 minutes. Maybe it's longer. Who knows what my experience is going to be. And you're forcing me to use digital. The other thing is, to your point, I think no matter whether I'm going to go to the phone, if that's where I initially want to go, where am I going to go to get the phone number? I'm going to go to the website, right?
Exactly.
So right away, I'm in a digital experience before I even get started with a digital or phone support experience.
Yeah, and I think you just hit on a super important point, Shep, is, now if you're having a customer call, they're actually, you're moving them to a different channel, and so you're already creating friction for that consumer. Whereas
Good point.
If they go in to get the number and they go, oh, I can actually take care of that while I'm in the same place, you can imagine that isn't actually an easier path for the customer.
Right. And so I think it's a beautiful way of saying it. I think I'm going to use the phone. And when I get to a point where, well, here's where the phone number is, and right next to it is your question about this? Before you call us, click here. And all of a sudden, if you've made it easy for me, intuitive for me, I'm going to go down that path of the digital experience. Sometimes what we have to do is teach the customer how to use the digital experience to get and we're not trying not to talk to them. We're just trying to give them a better experience, quicker, faster, more efficient. And if they can't get it, give us a call and you're still going to be happy.
Yeah. And, the more you can create an easy experience, like you said, Shep, and the customer realizes that they can resolve it right on the spot, then they don't have to think about, is there a hold time? Is there not a hold time? They can get it resolved right then. And it also, we built in some really great technology and tools that's really enabling that experience to go to another level. An example might be, we protect a lot of the mobile phones that consumers have, and if their mobile phone breaks, we've actually given them the ability they can either take it into a store. If they lost it, we can send them a new device. We can have them select the device that's going to be replaced right there on the right there on the web or the app. So all of the elements that you need to complete your that whatever situation or whatever event that you're experiencing, to be able to do that in a way that gets you exactly what you want and be able to get you back and going as quickly as possible. I mean, it's
Isn't
much
that
better.
what all customers want?
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. So that's what we pay a lot of attention to. And, we do a lot of listening to our consumers as well, Shep, and that informs us in terms of what the new innovations we're going to be working on and developing, what technologies we'll be adding into the experience. So it's a never-ending journey to keep raising the bar on that experience.
That's a good thing. Let's take a quick break. And when we come back, I want to continue the conversation. And I mentioned this on another episode, but just recently, I had an article put in front of me that I call a fairly major airline, not the biggest of the airlines, but I won't say their name, but their initials are Frontier Airlines. And by the way, I'm a fan of Frontier. I'm a fan of everything they stand for, but they're doing something that is somewhat unique and radical in the airline industry, and that is they've eliminated their call center altogether. Let's talk about that and a lot more. We're talking with Keith Meier, who's the Chief Operating Officer at Assurant. We'll be right back. Don't go away. Hi, Shep Hyken, your customer service and experience expert, and I'm excited to tell you about my new book, I'll Be Back, How to Get Customers to Come Back Again and Again. Now, this book is packed with idea after idea on how to, just as the title implies, get your customers to come back. In the book, you'll learn that repeat customers aren't always loyal customers. Now, both are great, but there's a big difference. You'll also learn about 10 reasons a customer may stop doing business with you and 3 reasons you would stop doing business with them. And one of my favorite lessons is a 6-step process for creating an I'll Be Back strategy. Of course, there's much, much more. You'll start getting more of your customers to say, I'll be back almost immediately. Just go to www.illbebackbook.com. Again, that's www.illbebackbook.com.
You're listening to Amazing Business Radio with best-selling author and customer service and business expert, Shep Hyken.
We're back on Amazing Business Radio talking with Keith Meier, COO of Assurant. And as we were coming into the break, I mentioned Frontier Airlines. And I applaud them. At the same time, I'm a little nervous for them, because when we make a bold statement like we're eliminating the customer support from the standpoint of human-to-human contact, I think, well, technology is great until it's not, until there's a snag, until I just can't get what I want. And I understand why they did it, because they believe that it had to do primarily, it looked like from the article I read, that there was an issue with how fast they were able to get refunds on tickets. And, you know, the fastest way was to use a digital system, a support system that allowed people to put in their information, put in the reason they're asking for, whatever it is, and getting it done quicker than having to call. So any thoughts on the elimination of that call center? And I use that word call center to differentiate between call center and contact center and overall support.
Yeah, and it's understandable maybe why they chose to go that way. I think ultimately, Shep, the digital experience in many cases, as we were talking about, is a better one. And the nice thing about digital experiences is ultimately they're a lower cost way to service as well. So clearly, Frontier, that's probably, by going so far to the extreme of pure digital, that's probably the driver, is the cost driver. And obviously with inflation and talent shortages, maybe they've felt there was a lot of pressure on those fronts. But I think ultimately, you can't fake a customer-centric culture, and at Assurant, that's really the most important thing. And, I often talk about our people, talent, and culture is by far my number one priority. And a lot of that is around, like, what do you consider to be important? What's important to your organization? And, just to give you an example, Shep, when I talk about, customer experience being important, we actually have all of our people, design their goals around 4 pillars. And one of the 4 pillars is customer experience. So everyone in our company knows that there's an element of their job that's all about improving and driving a better customer experience. And often it's about the digital experiences, but for us, it's making sure that a consumer can be supported in the way that they, in the way that they would want to be supported. So I understand why Frontier might, go down that path. But we protect a lot of brands, and we want to make sure we can support, consumers, hopefully first through digital means, but also giving them other options as
Always
well.
giving them the backup. Now, I'm interested to see if 6 months or a year from now, if Frontier's reinstated people, a human-to-human aspect of it. I think we're probably not 100% able to do that. Although you've got brands like Google, like try to get a human being on the phone if you've got questions about Google. Now, granted, they offer a free service. We should be happy. And they've created, all you got to do is Google your question. And the Google answer comes back, right? And so they've done a very effective job of creating that digital support.
I think, sorry, Shep, I think on that, the more transactional things, I think definitely is better for a digital experience. If a customer, has something, has a situation that's, that's unusual or those types of things, it's hard to do that through a digital transaction in some cases. So some of those, more unusual, more challenging, customer situations, I think you have to have an outlet for to help those, those customers, especially if you can imagine in an airline, that there can be a lot of interesting scenarios that can come up on any given day.
So for anybody listening that ever experiences a problem with customer trying to reach a human and not being able to do it, and with a company like Frontier that's eliminated altogether that human-to-human interaction, here's my suggestion. Get the headquarters phone number and call and ask to speak to the president. There are plenty of people that will make sure your problem is taken care of before you actually talk to the president of the company, airline, whatever it is. All right, let's jump into something. You mentioned just a few moments ago that there are challenges out there. There are employment issues. There's, I think you may have even mentioned supply chain. I'm not sure, but maybe that's what's going on in my head. With all of these challenges that are happening today, that digital experience becomes really important. You have this product internally, I believe it's referred to Apex, which is the Assurant Product Experience Exchange. And I want to just riff on that for a moment or two so that everybody understands, what good technology looks like in a customer support world.
Yeah, and I think, for us, Apex was about enabling our clients. As you mentioned, we're a B2B2C company, enabling our clients to, to be able to utilize the Assurant customer journeys in a way that's a lot easier to plug into. And so Apex is basically a way for our clients to integrate into the customer journeys that we've created that deliver great experiences. And, sometimes creating these experiences can take a lot of investment and a lot of technology. So we've done a lot of that work for our clients, and so they can leverage a lot of that. And so what Apex does is enables us to, to enable those clients to integrate with us very, very quickly. The origin of it, Shep, was really interesting. I worked with a client in another country prior to sort of my current role. I was responsible for international for Assurant. So I talked to clients all over the world, and the customer experience was always the biggest driver of how we were going to grow our business, and that was always the most important thing to our clients, almost across the board. But one of the conversations I had was there was a small piece of business, and they said, they were going to give it to someone else. They said, "Don't worry, there's a bigger piece coming later." But I really wanted to understand it, because they said the reason was that they didn't think they'd be able to integrate with us very quickly. And so knowing the inner workings of our company, I thought, that's really strange. What happened there? So I went and talked with the team, and I found out we had two different ways of integrating. We had, call it our newer way, and then there was you could call it the older way of integrating. And so I told the team we have to be moving forward on the newer way across the board. One of the things I did with is I said, let me be the client. Let's take our new technology, how we integrate, and it's basically almost like a simple self-serve. It's that beautiful. And so we went through it, made sure it was designed properly. A few months later, we came around with that client, and they said, "You guys were the best to integrate with." So you can imagine
you went from fearing you to not being, to all of a sudden you're the best. That's
Isn't
pretty
that
good
amazing?
movement.
So needless to say, that was a huge aha moment that we needed to really double down on this, and we basically extended it across our entire company. We put it under the term Apex, Assurant Product Experience Exchange, and now we're actually going to be doing some press releases around it here in the next few weeks as well. So it's just that example that it's hard to create, great experiences for all the different services that a company might want to do. And like you said, with a lot of the challenges with, economically that are going on out there. So being able to work with a company like Assurant can help accelerate, the digital journeys and the customer experience that these companies are trying to accomplish. And Apex is a way that we've made that, faster and easier for them.
All right. So there's two lessons in all of that. I love, first of all, hearing about, a little bit behind the scenes, and, you've given us an idea of how the sausage is made in the sausage factory. All right. Love that. But there's two really important lessons that I want everybody to have just learned. Obviously, three, we learned about you. Number two then would be, you mentioned, let me be the customer. And what you did, whether you know it or not, is you went through a journey mapping exercise. This is what our customer experience is. I want to make sure I understand what the customer experience is. You do that internally so you can find the friction points, and you used the word friction earlier in our conversation. You find the problematic areas. You find the places where our customers are going to say, maybe there's a better way of doing it. So that's important. Everybody, if you haven't done it, I don't care who your customer is, what kind of business you're in, journey map the heck out of your industry or your business. Understand what your customers want and expect, and do it again and again. It's not a one and done. It's every 6 months. You should do it and make sure everything's still the same. Number two, you are not just a vendor when you start talking to your customers like this. You are a partner. And in the case of a B2B2C, you understand your consumers so well, or the consumers so well, which are the customers of your clients, that you not only supply the support for them and the insurance and all that, but you also become their partner in helping them be more successful. If more companies, regardless whether they're B2C, B2B, or B2B2C, if more companies would take on their role of partnership versus just a place to do business with, I think the world would be a better place. And for those that don't know what's happening, and there's this silence, that is because Keith is shaking his head. Yes, I know you can't see it. Thank you for agreeing with me.
Absolutely agree. That's for sure, Shep.
All right, well, let's wrap it all up here. We're just about out of time. And I always ask the final question is that one little nugget of information that you want this audience to know that they can walk away with. And maybe after listening for the last 20, 25 minutes, they're going, you know what, this last moment was worth the whole price of admission. What would that nugget of wisdom be?
Wow. To encapsulate all this into one nugget, I guess I would just say, the reason I took on this role, Shep, is that the customer experience is going to drive, the next several years of growth, certainly for our company and most companies. And I wanted to be able to help drive that across, all of our businesses. And so I think the biggest message is, being passionate about customer experience is really the ticket to growth. And I think that's really critical for all of us to embrace. And I've heard it from clients all around the world. And, when you hear it from companies, big and small all over, it lands on you pretty heavily. And the nice thing is, it's been a secret to our success over many years. And for me personally, that's what's made this just a pleasure to be able to talk to you about customer experience today, Shep. So thanks for having me on.
Well, thank you very much. Let me summarize this. Customer experience is responsible for growth in a company. And traditionally would think marketing and sales, but now we're morphing into customer experience. And here's the idea here is that customer experience is sales and marketing and customer service and customer support. It's all in there, and we need to do that. Keith, thanks so much for being on the show. This is why we call it Amazing Business Radio. You've given us some amazing insights from inside a Fortune 500 company. Once in a while, we go in the trenches and talk to executives of companies just like yours. So thanks for being on the show.
Thanks for having me, Shep. It was a pleasure.
All right, everybody, that wraps it up. Another interview. And next week, we'll be back with another one. And I hope you do come back. Until that time, this is Shep Hyken, and I am reminding you to always be amazing.